Okay, in this video of the module, we're going to be looking at how we find suppliers inside the United States. Amazon obviously is a US based company, and there are definitely going to be opportunities if you can and want to source product from within the United States. Then you'll have probably lower barrier to entry to dealing with those suppliers, lower minimum order quantities dealing with them. There are certain niches, for example, the supplement niche lends itself to finding suppliers in the United States. Conversely, physical goods like spatulas and maybe yoga mats and other hard goods like that probably would lend themselves more towards dealing with a Chinese supplier, but never count out buying something from a supplier in the United States initially, like a yoga mat or a spatula as an example, initially maybe just to test the market and test whether or not it's a good market for you, because you may be able to find that yoga mat in the United States for maybe $1 or two more per unit. Get into the business, and then ultimately that you'll be able to transition overseas and find that supplier in China or overseas for dramatically cheaper. So you have to always keep that in mind, that this is not a hard and fast rule. You're going to be maybe finding suppliers in the U.S. depending upon your niche, finding suppliers overseas depending upon your niche, and you got to be willing to kind of go with the flow and know that initially you want to try to find it in the U.S. if you can, to maybe either that's going to be your sole supplier, or secondly, maybe to get into the market and then move overseas if it lends itself. Okay, so finding suppliers in the United States is actually really very simple. Your best friend is Google. Yes, you are going to just simply use Google. It is as simple as that. There is no other complicated secret. There is no other magical solution. You simply Google a couple of key phrases. You're going to find pages and pages and pages of results. You need to look at maybe 2 or 3 pages deep, and then you just simply identify a couple of companies, and you start calling them with the content and the information that I'm about to give you. So let's look at some live examples, as we've been doing throughout the whole course. Okay, so remember in our example, we identified biotin as a potential. Well, let's look at maybe, again, finding some suppliers, and we've identified biotin might be. Now, it's probably really not because of the pricing, but we're going to use it as an example. Remember, the retail pricing is not quite high enough. It doesn't meet our minimum 15. Now, there are companies that are selling it at minimum 15, which means you might be able to surprisingly come in and you could even sell it at a higher price, say 19, okay? But we're just going to move forward in the capacity that this is right, or I could look at, maybe we'll even do Garcinia gambogia in a moment as well. So what did I do? I simply did what I told you to do, which in the presentation, keyword private label plus our keyword plus the term private label. Sorry about that. Okay, so private label biotin, okay, or biotin private label, doesn't really matter either way. Okay, so the first things that jumps out at me, there's a couple of them here. Like you could go. Now this actually private label, they're actually a manufacturer, and they sell directly on Amazon as well. I would not contact these guys as an example because they're selling directly on Amazon as well. I don't want to compete with them. I want a true private label wholesale organization. So let's look at a couple of things right here. Privatelabelsupplements.net. Let's see what they've got. Again, guys, I haven't even looked at these results either. And so what we're looking at here, this actually looks pretty good. We're looking at a company that can, this is exactly what we're talking about, right? Build your own private labels. They have good looking packaging. They say they have low prices, low minimums, fast turnaround, label design, in-house printing, guys. Everything I've looked at, honestly, I just Googled private label biotin, and I'm looking at this the first time I've seen this. So this is actually pretty cool. Now they've got other stuff like B12 complex, looks like. So they've got other products that we might be able to move into as well. So these are all very, very cool potentials as a supplier. Okay, so at a high level, it looks pretty good. Let's see about us. Let's contact them. Let's see where they're at. They're out of Utah. I would absolutely call these guys. I'd pick up the phone and call these guys. Okay, so that's perfect example. We hit one right there out of the park, right there. Okay, so that's privatelabelsupplements.net. Let's look at private label Nutra, just to kind of see. Okay, so decent site. Dietary supplements. Oh, they've got a video. Awesome. So you can see that maybe we might ought to contact them as well. They kind of show you some of their weight loss, some of the things they have for you. Some of the things they've got as well. Now, most of these companies are not going to share actual pricing on their website. You're going to have to call them, that kind of deal. But it's as simple as that. That's really all you need to do. So I could go down and just take an hour or two and just kind of start going through some of these guys. Let's see, private label PL supplements. Let's see what they've got. Okay. Yeah, look, bestsellers. They got some good stuff there. Biotin, custom manufacturing, customer service. I mean, they have brand development, packaging, and design, private labeling. Sounds good. They've got a phone number. We know they're in the United States. Again, worth a call. Okay. So that was Biotin. Let's look at, and they're in the United States, obviously. Let's look at private label yoga mats. Okay, so private label yoga mats. Okay, so I looked at, first thing we see is maybe we've got some interesting stuff here. Look at this, private label hair products. I didn't even look for that, and I've got private label hair products. Let's open that in a new tab in a minute because I don't even know what that's about. Let's look at this one. See what we got here. Sourcing, private label, yeah. We can easily help you custom make the labels, the packaging. Yep, they can help. Shipping. Okay, that warehouse with no hassle. They're saying all the right things. There's a lot of content here. Let's see. They don't really talk about. Oh, right here. There they are. So let's look at yoga mats. Okay, so here's some examples of yoga mats. So maybe we wanted to sell 3mm with the strap. Again, horrible picture, but you can get better pictures done. So yeah, I mean, this is not bad. I mean, but look at, they've got other things: yoga straps, yoga mats, yoga blocks, yoga rugs. Okay, well, neti pots. I hadn't even thought about that. That might not be a bad opportunity. Is it worth the call? Let's see. No, shop at Amazon. No, they're not really selling on Amazon. Let's see. Contact us. Let's see where these guys are at. Okay, they don't tell us where they're at, so they may not be in the United States. I don't know. Not really getting a warm and fuzzy off these guys. But, is it worth the call? Sure. Here's some of their terms. See, their minimum is 150. So that might not be bad. Let's see what else we got here. Mats.com. Let's see. And again, guys, I hadn't even looked at this. I'm looking at this live as we speak. Let's see. Custom yoga mats. Those are pretty cool. And printing your own design on that. That's pretty cool. Let's see. So they got other stuff. Custom embroidered. Are these guys necessarily set up for private labeling? Maybe not. But depending on what the pricing looks like. 6 to 8 weeks for production. I guarantee you they're buying this out of China themselves, because that's about it. You can get it out of China for less than that, for about that time frame. Minimum is 100 mats. Is it worth the call? Yeah. I mean, maybe they may be a couple more dollars, higher than what you'd be getting it, from China direct yourself. So maybe not. Okay. So you can kind of get a feel. I mean, there is no hard science to this. You just kind of got to go through it. I don't even know what Becca.com is. Let's see that. Okay. I want to see where they're at. About us. Oh, that's not a good sign. Site's crashing. I don't really see what I'm looking for. Because again, you're going to get a lot of this. Okay, you're going to get a lot of this kind of just junk. Yogi bags, OM search. Here's Alibaba right there, which we're going to talk about that, and when we talk about the the international stuff going overseas. But we're kind of looking for the direct American. So again, like I said in the beginning, you may not find for certain products United States suppliers, but you need to look, because you might be surprised. Yoga mats wholesale. Okay, well, let's see what he's got to say. Okay, looks better. There's a bunch of different colors. Sticky mats. Okay. not bad. Let's see what happens here. It's taking me to a shopping cart. Okay, well, I've got, okay, there you go. There you go. You got a retail price of $9.98. Okay, it depends on how many you want to buy. Yeah, that's not bad. You could call them, probably get a volume discount. Believe that they have all these other things. Would you maybe want to test this? Maybe order maybe 100 units of these? You know, like right here, look, quantity pricing, 100 plus, $7.98. You know, maybe you just want to test out the yoga mat space and you buy 100 black ones and, you know, you get them up on Amazon and you see what you see, right? Well, instead of having to order maybe 1,000 or 2,000 minimum order quantity out of China, you could buy direct from these guys, just test the market, and then if it works out, then, you know, you swap it out. My only question to these guys would be, can they ship directly to Amazon FBA warehouses, and would they, you know, stick your label, your logo, you know, on each of the units or on some kind of packaging that went with it? Okay, so that's an opportunity. That may be one. They might work with you. And I found that on, you know, what, page 2 of the results. So you know, here's another one, wholesale yoga mats. So you can kind of see what I'm seeing here. This was that other, we found this off of an ad. What is this? Private label hair products. Because, you know, hair products are a big deal on Amazon. A lot of times might be harder to make money off of them. I'm reading this. Big brands, no, they're private label hair products for less than 1,000, and that money earns you more margin for you. Okay, well, maybe that's not bad. I mean, you know, you identify that, you know, like some hair products that might sell well, but, you know, just again, spatulas. You know, actually, I did private label spatulas as an example, and I'll tell you what, I'm getting a lot of here is I'm getting a lot of kind of other international sites that kind of compete with Alibaba. There's Alibaba. Alibaba is the 800-pound gorilla. You don't really need to go anywhere else. Let's see, Color Lab private label. Let's see what that is. Specialty products. I don't know what this is. It's nothing to do with. These are like bottles. Interesting. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so you get the point. That's how you go about finding U.S.-based suppliers. So you just simply Google it, and once you find a couple, you make a note of them, write down their contact information, and you start calling them. Okay, and I'm going to give you a video here in a little bit that details what you say and how you interact with them. Okay, see you in the next video.